Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. As you can see, we successfully managed to drop the trailer off at the boatyard. This episode is going to be all about the experience we had whilst we tried to get the trailer to actually fit the boat. As you know, the trailer was not bought new and was not specifically modified to fit this boat. So we had to do the fabrication and all the modifications to make that a reality. I'm sure that anybody watching this video will be thinking to themselves, why on earth would anyone risk towing a 32-foot, 11,000-pound sailboat from Solomons, Maryland, all the way to Silver Spring, Maryland? That is crazy. However, in our circumstances, we had no choice. When I bought Sand Dollar, I knew that she was going to be a bit of a project. There was nothing major, but she had taken on water, and we were going to have to do some engine repairs and some fiberglass work to get her back in the water. Now, with a boat like this, once it's taken on water, you don't really know what the full extent of the damage is, but we were lucky enough to get a list of what the repairs would have cost at the boatyard. Now, as we all know that with these project boats, you can't really afford to have these boats if you have to pay people to do the jobs. If you look at the invoice there, it was saying $100 an hour for labor. And a lot of the jobs were pretty simple jobs, but very labor intensive, especially out in the hot sun. So our only option was to try to secure the boat somewhere where we could slow down the marina fees and take our time getting the boat repaired.
Hey, Catherine! Kid, you gotta see this. This is way better than you would think. It just needs a little work. It's great. Come on, Catherine, come on.
I'll be right back.
Come on, let's go.
Yep, this is exactly how the ladies in my life were looking at me when we got this far with Sand Dollar. Obviously, we'd done a lot of work to get to this point, but I felt like it was time for a little bit of R&R. So we went out and took a lesson with J World Sailing in Annapolis just to get a break from all the work and all the grind and gristle. I mean, we only had a few days left before we had to fly back to England, so this was a welcomed experience. I mean, I knew at this point that, it's a lot of money had been spent, a lot of effort had been put, and there had been zero sailing done. So I felt it was time for a little bit of break and a change of pace. Here you can see we're raising the mainsail. J World Sailing was awesome. The ladies had never been out sailing, and I felt like this was a good experience, and a good way to go, just to sort of refresh the whole point of it all. At this point, it was obvious that the girls really did have a different change in attitude with the amount of effort that we've been putting in. We're trying to get this boat trailered and back to the house. I think it definitely makes a big difference when you see like the excitement in Annapolis Marina, all the boats coming in and out. We just did a little bit of tacking and basic maneuvers with the winches, One of the things that was definitely eye-opening about Annapolis is how busy it is and how intimidating it would be for a new sailor to try to take on trying to actually just get out of the slip. We had a strong wind that was coming in, and as we were coming back in, the actual instructor really struggled to come in stern too, which was eye-opening, because I thought, you know what, if you ever do, or if we ever get a slip in Annapolis, I definitely am going to want something that's easily maneuverable. And which is kind of funny, because Sand Dollar has like a modified fin keel, which apparently is pretty easy to move, to maneuver, but we'll see when we go for the prop wash. So yeah, this is just us doing a little bit of practice sailing, and it went extremely well.
Now you go a little bit to the left, just a little bit. You're going to ease up on your pressure a little bit here, so she doesn't drop the boat.
One of the things I was extremely excited about was the build quality of this 30, I think it was a 31 footer. If you look here, you can see obviously it wasn't luxurious, but it was your basic setup for an aft cockpit sailboat. The finish on all the interior was nice and bright and light, and it definitely gave me some inspiration for the level of refit that we could do on Sand Dollar. She was almost, identical. Obviously, our saloons are going to be a little bit shorter than this one, but, with some good carpentry skills and upholstery skills, I think we can definitely modernize Sand Dollar to a better level than what she's at now. Her beam is only like 10.5 foot, so, it's always good to see this, a working boat, which may or may not be as good as Sand Dollar. When we were done sailing, everybody was on such a buzz because of the experience. We decided to venture into downtown Annapolis and try one of the most famous restaurants they have there, which is, I think it's called the Boatyard. And it was a really, really, really positive experience. So yeah, this place is definitely, I wouldn't say it's the cheapest place to go, but it's definitely got the vibe there, and the food did not disappoint. So after having a really positive experience with Annapolis and the success of getting the trailer to the boatyard, we decided to fly back to England and just let the boatyard get on with it. We felt like they were the professionals, and if anybody could get the boat back to the house, it would be the boatyard. But to our surprise, when we finally did get back to England, we got a call from the gentleman that we had hired to transport the boat back to the house. Apparently, the boatyard said they couldn't mount the boat on the trailer because the posts weren't adjusted enough. There was still probably about 3/4 of a foot gap between the keel and the trailer pad that holds the keel. Now, what you want is like 99% of the weight to rest on the keel and the trailer, and the poster is there for stability and support. You don't want any weight of the boat resting on the pads. The pads, again, are there strictly for support. So if the keel wasn't going to touch the bottom of the trailer, we were in serious trouble. Getting the bad news from the boatyard, and it was a lot more dramatic than I'm letting on to here, but basically we had to come back to the United States and readjust the trailer, which meant that the first attempt that the boatyard did to get the trailer to fit the boat was a fail. And that was our free attempt, because when you haul out at this marina, you get one free sort of load in the cradle to go back in the water. This was our free attempt, so the next one would cost us 300 pounds. So what ended up happening is I flew back to the United States for the Annapolis Boat Show, and this was going to be my second attempt to get the boat to fit the trailer. And we ran into some obstacles because I got the trailer back to the house, and it was just a matter of getting the angle grinder out. But the measurements, you can try and measure from the keel up as much as you want. It's going to be some adjustments. You're never going to get bang on. As you'll be able to see in these next clips, we were almost there the first time I did the cuts. You know, when the boatyard initially tried to put the boat on the trailer, it was extremely off. There was no chance that was ever going to work. I think, you know, it was more of a stern issue, the back post. But I thought safer, you know, better to be safer to have too much than too little, because you could always go back and cut more. So as you can see here, we're trying to reload the boat onto the trailer, and yeah, it got interesting. Another thing I want to mention about the situation here, with going back to why we decided to try and trailer this ourselves, is basically we actually tried to hire people to actually move the boat, and the truth was a lot of people will turn away from jobs like this because of the risk factor. You know, there's a guy in the area that actually does this sort of thing. I found out from Enterprise Truck Rental, which I use to rent the truck, that he had a customized fifth wheel dually with a hydraulic trailer that he just used for these particular jobs.
I was just wondering.
Now, you know, this is where it comes into the question
Hot
for
out here,
yourself, if you want to become a trailer sailor or not. Because if you have someone come off a hydraulic trailer, that means when they get it to the property, it's got to go on jack stands. Well, we actually bought jack stands originally, and that was the plan, was just to have someone come and do it. But we realized that, again, if you put a boat on jack stands in a domestic area, a residential area, the insurance factor becomes a real issue, because you got to think, if one of those stands comes loose, or one of those chains and holder stands come loose, and you're not in the country, okay, let alone even at home, you know, it could be disastrous. So, you know, we wanted to actually have people do it. We actually let the boatyard try and get it done, but it got into a big mess, really. And yeah, that's part of the reason why you kind of have to get stuck in. I wish that I had recorded us cutting down the post, because there were 3 times when there were 2 times when I had to cut down the post. One was when I initially got the trailer home before it went for the first load, which was a major cut. The second one was at the boatyard, which you'll see why in a few moments here. But yeah, this is the thing about actually doing this yourself, where if you have a trailer that's custom made by Loadmaster for your boat, then obviously you don't do any of this. But we didn't have that luxury. We had to find, you know, what was available in our price bracket, and this is the route we took.
Yes. Oh. We got about an inch.
Alright, so you see what we got going on now?
Yeah, it's like an inch and a half in it.
It's just this damn middle one holding me up. Now, if I scoot forward, I don't know where the hull's really gonna lay and get me lower.
Yeah. Let me just think. I'm wondering if we don't come backwards. I knew I should have cut it down an inch and a half. Damn it, man.
The keel's just
there.
off.
Yeah, like it's like an inch and a half.
I'm like a ½ inch off.
Fuck. I'm wondering if I come back just a little bit.
I mean, if I take the boat back,
Yeah.
it'll give me a little bit.
Yeah, if we can come back, we still got like a what, like a half a foot of keel pad there.
Yeah, right.
Do you know what I
right.
mean? We can still come back a little bit.
Let's come up with it a little bit, Jay. Let's scoot back and see what that does for us.
Damn, I knew it. Oh.
And 2 and 4, come up with it first, and then come up with 2 and 4 just a little bit. Hold it. Come up with this side. Other side. Hold it.
Straps.
Oh, I can always fix that, but
Yeah.
come on back a little bit. Oh. Come on down with the whole button. This one's on the side. Yeah, I know, but it's a loose.
So we're still hitting that pad in the middle.
Well, we're gonna run into the same issue.
Yeah. Yeah, it's about an inch off in the middle. But these two are fine.
As far as if we go back where we were,
Yeah.
up against the bow, yeah.
If you bring it just up against the bow again, and if you lower it down, can I see how much space I've got? Because I might just be able to shim it. I mean, it's only like an inch, isn't it?
We may not even need, but I mean,
Do you know what I mean?
use the full. I don't know where you're going with it.
We're going up Silver Spring with it. I'm just thinking,
Because if you got 2 and 2 and
Yeah.
that, and you got 3 sets of straps over it,
yeah,
with most of the keel weight holding it,
yeah,
those, you know, you could almost take those out and say fuck it.
yeah. Or even put like a thinner pad in there, take that off.
Yeah,
Just trying to think.
yeah, or that.
If I got anything to shim it. One sec.
Yeah, let me take this off.
Right, well, as you can see in the last video, we did manage to get her on the trailer. Not quite the way I wanted it to. There's a small gap here where I need to bring this forward support over a little bit. We've got all the straps. We've got this bow support, which is not exactly where I want it to be either, but that's going to be tightened down. As you can see, we are missing the sort of midships support brackets because I was about an inch off, maybe an inch and a half off. If I'd cut it right there, it would have been absolutely perfect, but there was no way to get the boat to sit in the cradle with the pad on, so I'll have to wedge some wood in there for the transport. But we've got straps. Hopefully we can strap the keel, keep some pressure on that. You know, just really just get her home. It's been a long journey.
I'm also a bit concerned about there being a lot of weight on the middle tire for the middle axle. Hopefully that will remedy itself once we get on flat ground. It's just a learning curve, really. Just a lot of things happening here. But super stoked to have made it this far with it all. It's just a lot of energy.
Okay, clearly at this point, this is a fail. And the reasons here are obvious. Um, yeah, enthusiasm can get the best of you, but the reality of this situation at this point was that, well, at that point, we probably should have stopped right then and there. Because, as it turns out, that pressure that was actually on the middle axle wasn't just a little bit of a fluke. It was actually due to a loose leaf spring shackle, which meant that as soon as we got out on the road, that leaf spring shackle would reverse itself. So essentially, all the pressure of and all the weight of 11,000 pounds plus the trailer weight was resting on the middle axle alone. None of the weight was being distributed evenly throughout the three axles, which was the whole point of having a trailer as such. So, as you might have guessed, disaster. Absolutely. We got about maybe 5 miles down the road, not even 5 miles, maybe 3 miles down the road, and we had a blowout. Yes, an actual blowout on the highway. Now, at this point, I have to apologize because when it was all happening, I was basically way too stressed out to even think about pulling the camera out. Our permit had expired because your permit is only from morning or from sunlight till sundown. But I was in such a panic rush to get the boat out. I was just wanted to get on with it, and it was really stupid. I don't recommend anyone trying it, and I paid a heavy price for it. Basically, tire blew out, was bobbling on the side of the rim, and I had to keep driving until the actual tire came off the rim, leave that tire somewhere to jettison, and then the whole trailer, the boat and the trailer, was grinding on the actual middle wheel axle. This was crazy. It was at night. There was no one with me to help. I didn't have an escort this time. It was everything it was Murphy's Law 101. Everything that could have gone wrong went wrong. Should have never even attempted to move it at that point, but I just didn't have enough information to be able to solve the problem. So, long story short, I had to drag this boat all the way back the 3 or 4 miles down the road from the boatyard on basically 5 tires and grinding the axle all the way, or excuse me, grinding the actual rim all the way back to the boatyard. This was the sketchiest thing I'd ever experienced. And it was like fight or flight. I had no choice. I mean, people were pulling over and saying, "Hey, do you need help?" It's not every day you see a guy at nighttime towing a 32-foot sailboat with wide load flags on it at night in Solomon's, Maryland. So, yeah, it was a bit of a disaster, and luckily I made it back to the boatyard so that I could start all over again. But that was probably the scariest thing that ever happened to me as a mechanic, as a DIYer, or anything. This was super sketch. Thanks for watching, everyone. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you did get anything out of it, please remember to like and subscribe. I'll post another video next week about the final steps you need to take to get your boat from the boatyard to the house. Have a good one. Well, at that point, we probably should have stopped right then and there because, as it turns out, that pressure that was actually on the middle axle wasn't just a little bit of a fluke. It was actually due to a loose leaf spring shackle, which meant that as soon as we got out on the road, that leaf spring shackle would reverse itself. So essentially, all the pressure of and all the weight of 11,000 pounds plus the trailer weight was resting on the middle axle alone. None of the weight was being distributed evenly throughout the three axles, which was the whole point of having a trailer of such. So, as you might have guessed, disaster. Absolutely. We got about maybe 5 miles down the road, not even 5 miles, maybe 3 miles down the road, and we had a blowout. Yes, an actual blowout on the highway. Now, at this point, I have to apologize because when it was all happening, I was basically way too stressed out to even think about pulling the camera out. Our permit had expired because your permit is only for from morning or from sunlight till sundown. But I was in such a panic rush to get the boat out. I was just wanted to get on with it, and it was really stupid. I don't recommend anyone trying it, and I paid a heavy price for it. Basically, tire blew out, was bobbling on the side of the rim, and I had to keep driving until the actual tire came off the rim, leave that tire somewhere to jettison, and then the whole trailer, the boat and the trailer, was grinding on the actual middle wheel axle. This was crazy. It was at night. There was no one with me to help. I didn't have an escort this time. It was everything it was Murphy's Law 101. Everything that could have gone wrong went wrong. Should have never even attempted to move it at that point, but I just didn't have enough information to be able to solve the problem. So, long story short, I had to drag this boat all the way back the 3 or 4 miles down the road from the boatyard on basically 5 tires and grinding the axle all the way, or excuse me, grinding the actual rim all the way back to the boatyard. This was the sketchiest thing I'd ever experienced. And it was like fight or flight. I had no choice. I mean, people were pulling over and saying, "Hey, do you need help?" It's not every day you see a guy at nighttime towing a 32-foot sailboat with wide load flags on it at night in Solomon's, Maryland. So, yeah, it was a bit of a disaster, and luckily I made it back to the boatyard so that I could start all over again. But that was probably the scariest thing that ever happened to me as a mechanic, as a DIY or anything. This was super sketch. So anyway, at this point, I did manage to successfully remove the tire. I went to a specialized trailer store. This is another. It's another big up to Annapolis. It's another praise to Annapolis, Maryland. I used to work in an auto parts store next to this trailer store, um, Advanced Auto, and I knew it was there, and they had just like everything. It was like trailer paradise. There's actually two different places in that area, two trailer stores, and the whole between Solomon's and Annapolis, which are really good. But yeah, he set me off the right path. I bought a new tire. I bought a new wheel actually, and then I took the tire to get mounted at Pep Boys because Pep Boys are really cheap and really cool. Another really cool thing about being in Annapolis, there's so much there that you can take advantage of if you have these emergencies and stuff like that. So yeah, new wheel, new tire, mounted. I mean, it's probably an extra $100 all in all, but a small price to pay. You know, the boat's already on the trailer. Um, and get this, yeah, I took the boat back off the trailer. We opted to pay another 300. So at this point, we're 600 in on taking the boat on and off the trailer because I didn't feel comfortable with the middle post, the midships post being on those wood blocks. So I took it, adjusted that, grinded that down with an angle grinder. It was fairly easy. I figured, why not? You know, we have to do it anyway. So the guys at the boatyard took the boat back off the trailer. Uh, I went and cut it down, made sure all the leaf spring shackles were oiled, went through the bearings and greased those as well. Checked everything I could check with the trailer to make sure there had been no other damage done. And eventually we put the boat back on the trailer for the final attempt to get this boat on, which also meant, yes, we did have to have another permit. And I was quite happy to pay for another permit because the one that I had before had expired. And, you know, at this point, it was between April and October. You know, I had to fly back and forth a few times. I had to make sure I got it right because, you know, you have to calculate all the cost of travel. And, you know, any excuse to get back home, I'm happy to take. But yeah, it did cost a lot to get to this point, but I figured in the long run, it was better to have the boat on a trailer than not have the boat on a trailer and have it secured so that down the run, you know, I wouldn't have to worry about, oh, right, is the boat sitting at the boatyard? Are they getting upset because nothing's happening on it? Or, you know, life just sometimes get in the way. So, yeah, flew back, loaded everything up in the boat as well, which was another thing which I wish I could have recorded, but unfortunately I didn't get any recording of that or me adjusting the post. But yeah, I got it completely ready just in case we decided to just ship the boat from the boatyard to England rather than, you know, keeping it in Maryland. But, you know, long story short, yeah, we did keep the boat in Maryland. I did come back to Maryland, and this time I was prepared. I had a buddy with me who was going to follow me just in case anything happened. We had impact guns, we had floor jacks, we had everything ready for any emergency. Got there on the road, and yeah, here it goes.